I use the analogy of the palm tree. So palm tree loves Florida sun and warmth. But if you dug that palm tree up and transplanted it to Alaska, it would wither and die. Mm-hmm. Same thing for company cultures. You know, people thrive in cultures that feed them.
Yeah,
right?
That fit them.
Right.
Yeah, anytime I've done
Exactly.
like research work on a company and someone's like, well, I just didn't really feel like I fit. It's like, well, you didn't fit my culture.
Right.
The culture's so
Exactly.
and each one has their own, and
yes.
none are bad or worse or whatever.
Exactly.
It's really just where you fit. On today's episode of The Claw, I speak with Beth Miller. She has authored a new book called Replaceable, and we're going to talk about being obsessed with your succession. So an obsession with succession is sort of the subtitle for it. This is appropriate if you're a business owner or if you're running a department. How are you putting the right things in place so that you can either take that next job or maybe retire to the beach? So listen in to The Claw as I talk with Beth today about succession. Welcome to The Claw, the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger Partners, and I am joined today by Beth Miller, which I call her the godmother of Liger Partners. I don't know if she knows that.
I did not know that.
So,
well, thank you, I think.
Yeah. No, it makes you more, you're part of the pride, So, yeah.
I feel like part of the pride.
Yeah, it's part of the pride. So she assists us as a company with the topic that we're going to talk about today and kind of looking at our leadership and making sure that we're doing all the right things to move us to the next level. Beth has a new book called Replaceable, and so we're going to talk today about replaceable. It's such a scary. We're replaceable, really?
We are, and we should be. We really should be, right? And especially when it comes to business owners.
Yeah.
I was a Vistage chair for many years and had companies and business owners who had to transition. Mm-hmm. They wanted to retire, right? But they came to a point where all of a sudden they woke up and they were like, I want out, right?
Like I'm done.
I've got grandkids or whatever.
Yeah.
But they hadn't planned for it.
Yeah.
And so they were always playing catch up. But there were a few people that really got the idea of a succession plan.
Yeah.
And so in my book, I talk about that individual who was kind of conglomerate of a number
people.
of people, right?
Yeah. It's a nice matrix.
Right,
yes.
exactly.
Patchwork quilt.
Of what that individual did well that allowed him to step away and sell his business for cash, no earnout, and leave something to his employees, his key employees.
Yeah.
So it was a real success, whereas flip side was somebody who didn't do that and unfortunately died of a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And 18 months later, there was no business.
Yeah. Yeah, so. And it's such an interesting topic to discuss because, I'm a big believer in E-Myth. Mm-hmm. And, talks about building your business like a franchise, which is the similar model of like, if you can build it as a franchise, then that means someone else can step in and run it.
Right? Exactly, yeah.
And so for people, normally that's like an operational, I just, need to be more efficient or whatever.
Right.
But it also can get you to this end goal.
Yes.
But there's some deeper things you have to think about. Like, it's not just that. Like,
no.
There's some deeper things.
Yeah, the business owner, him or herself, is the one that's generally the roadblock to starting the process.
Yes.
And once they start it, if they understand where they're going to be on the other side of the exit, then they're more motivated to step away from the business when they identify a successor.
Right.
I've seen people, most recently, one individual who hired somebody from the outside, did not have somebody internally, but couldn't let go.
Oh yeah.
And frustrated the individual so much that he ended up leaving.
Yeah, well, and that when I sold my business in 2012, I got more into operational before I accidentally started this one. I tell everybody, some people have babies in their 40s and I have an company.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the thing about it is what I found a lot on the operations side is that you'd have an owner who would say they did want to give up things, but then their identity was so tied up in the thing they did for the business.
Exactly.
That was what they were afraid of.
Yes.
They were afraid of, well, if I give that away, then what do I do?
Right.
Like, what is my role?
Right. Yeah. Right. I'm actually working with an individual up in the Midwest he's probably close to 70.
Yeah.
And he's playing catch up right now.
Right.
But one of the problems is him.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and it's hard to get him to face that, right? It's like,
Right.
you just really don't want to give this up. Like,
Right.
oh yeah, I do. No, you really don't.
He's identified somebody, and I'm coaching that individual. But what I'm finding is that the business owner needs some coaching as well.
Yeah. Right. Right. Well, what are the telltales? I don't know what I'm saying. the things that tell you that about a business owner, that they may not really want to give up control.
Well, I had a conversation with him and his potential successor, and he's at a point where he knows that he wants to step away, but he's not willing to really share that with the successor.
Oh.
So he'll talk about an exit plan and that he wants to exit, but then he gets all wishy-washy with the individual about what he's looking for and why that's important.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get that out and asking some questions during the conversation recently, and he didn't bite.
Yeah.
So now I've got to go back and have a conversation with him of, hey, you got some work to do too.
Right. Right. So when should someone start succession planning? How long? I mean, okay, I know what your answer is going to be, but what's the least realistic time frame?
Okay.
Right.
Yes. So I would say the least realistic time frame is 5 years.
That is a long time frame.
It is. Well, especially if you've got a small company.
Right.
Right. Generally I work with companies that are, 25 to 300, 400 people. If you've got 100 employees, you've got a lot of resources to pull from.
Right.
But if you've got 10 people.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You're 10% of the workforce.
Right.
At
Exactly.
least.
Yeah. And so, in every member of your organization is probably a key employee.
Yes.
Has a key position. And I talk about key positions in the book, and key positions are different than key people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because if you integrate succession planning into your business plan, which is what I recommend, that it's not something that you wait for. You start doing it years in advance.
Yeah.
And it's an annual process where you evaluate, okay, what are my key positions today? Mm-hmm. And what are the key positions look like 3 years from now based on my business plan?
Yeah.
Because your organization, if you're a growth-oriented organization, which
right.
is the only companies that I will work with, they're going to change.
Yeah.
The organization's going to look different. So you've got to look forward and say, okay, are we shifting our strategy? And if so, what new positions do we need to have, or how do we shift the positions that we have?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And interestingly, so it's your 10%. When you add another person, you're adding a significant, which is one of the
right.
things that we talk about with my company is okay, we're bringing someone in. What is that going to do? What's
right.
the ripple effect?
Exactly.
How's that going to work?
Yeah.
And the other thing, we follow EOS, the traction process.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And one of the leadership traits or things I teach you is to do this elevate, delegate
yes. Yep.
thing.
Uh-huh.
So you build a quadrant, and it's the things I love to do and I'm really good at, and then
right.
the things I do just because I have to, but
right.
I don't really like them, and I'm actually really not that good at them,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
And if you can start to identify a few of those, what I love in that teaching is they say if you would give one of those away a quarter, one a month,
right.
and you look back over a 5-year period, you're doing one a month. You gave away 60 things
right.
that you
but you've
used
taken
to do.
on a lot more valuable
yes
work.
Yes. Yeah. If you
Yeah.
think your value is in, running that P&L
Right.
or what. It's not.
No.
You can find somebody to do that part. They
Exactly.
can come up with the vision for the company and hold it.
No.
And that is the hardest. That is my question to you around succession or, being replaceable. The having the person who has the vision for where the company is going to go next. That feels like the hardest part of it to replace. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, in my experience, especially smaller companies.
Right.
If you've got a larger company
that has kind of like a goals.
Right, and has different levels of management,
right.
then what you do is you have an analysis of your talent pool on an annual basis, and you look for those individuals that have potential to move up to the next position.
Right.
And then you develop them so that they're prepared for when that time comes.
You shouldn't just throw them in and say, hey, good luck,
well,
swim.
I'll tell you, that's where I get a lot of my coaching opportunities is when that happens, right?
Yeah.
And my goal for companies is to learn how to do coaching.
Yeah.
Right? So that they're coaching and developing their people. I don't want to be in there for the rest of my life.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and the classic is taking the really good salesperson and making them a sales manager.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Which is two totally different.
Yeah, it's that subject matter expert, and I talk about that in the book as well. Is you've got to define what potential looks like for your organization.
Right.
Right. And in fact, there's a conversation I bring up about a time that I was having working with a woman who had elevated a technical person who was very good at his job,
right?
But he was failing
as a
manager.
Yeah.
And we talked about, okay, well, why did you elevate him right to that position? And she's like, well, he helped the team members, but there were other things that he wasn't doing that was important, like vision work.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Looking ahead. He was task oriented.
Right. Yeah, that's what's interesting, and I think it's a cultural thing and I don't know about other cultures enough to really answer this in a way that's, meaningful. But in America, I know that we're very promotion driven.
Yes.
Get that next role.
Right.
As you get a little older, you're like, well, maybe I don't want that next role, right?
Right. Exactly.
But as you're younger and you're thinking through, it's like, I need to get that next. But you may serve very well as an individual contributor, and that's just where you fit, and it's a great fit.
So that's where career conversations are important.
Yeah.
And another thing that I talk about in the book is when you're going through, defining potential, and you've identified the high potentials. Well, some of those people may not want to go up to that next level. So have that career conversation on an annual basis to understand, what their goals are and where they want to go. And it may be that you can't offer them that.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But it's good for you to know that.
Yeah.
Right? There was years ago, a Vistage member, it was probably about 10 years ago, he had that conversation with somebody in his organization. It was a fairly small organization, probably 25 people. And he found out that this guy wanted to be a stand-up comic. And
was he his designated successor?
No, fortunately, that was not the case.
And hopefully, it was a stand-up comedy club. Yeah, so right.
Yeah, it was a manufacturing company.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, you don't really want much comedy in the manufacturing.
No, but he at least knew, right? And the guy was doing a good job. It wasn't, but he also knew that this guy had a dream.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he helped him get to that dream.
Yeah.
The guy left, went out to California, to LA, and did stand-up comedy.
Yeah, and that one of the biggest things, and I steal this from somebody else, is making sure your business or the role in that business doesn't become a self-made prison.
Yeah. That's exactly.
Self-made prison. Like you show up to it every day, you don't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whatever. And that also, with owners at a point, maybe where they get to that burnout. Right?
Yes.
Like it's just like, yeah, I can't perform at the level that I did. Or
Right.
expected.
I mean, like the guy in the Midwest, he's clearly burnt out.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for years.
Right.
And it just shows.
Yeah. The thing that so I wrote an article a long time ago around, people will tell you, go get a life,
Yes.
and I like to work. So my work is my life. I enjoy it.
Yes.
It's not I don't see it as a chore.
Right.
It's the thing it is my hobby. I'm bad at golf. It's just, I don't have a lot of other great
Right.
hobbies. And so the succession planning and thinking about it, you have to start deciding, at least for someone like me, where I'm like, it's like, well, what else am I going to do?
Exactly.
Right?
What else are you going to do, Eric?
I have some ideas.
Okay.
I have some ideas.
We need to chat about that.
Yeah, I have some idea. We do. So yes. But, thinking though that, because for everyone, not everyone is go sitting on the rocking chair on the front
Right.
porch and the whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's like a
It's
death
not
sentence for me.
same
Yeah.
here. That's just, yeah.
But it isn't necessarily what you're today, and you get tied up in that identity.
Yeah, and I personally, I look at retirement as working with the people that you want to work with
Yeah.
when you want to work.
Right. Yeah. Just kind of toning it down a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked about like the 5-year kind of.
Yes.
So what am I doing at the beginning of that?
Well, what you're first doing is bringing a team together.
Okay.
So if and this would be obviously for a company of over 30 people, where it'd be it'd be your HR person, and your some of your top
Key people.
right? And you're going to determine and analyze your organization. Are you ready to take on succession planning? Because there's certain elements that and processes that you need, like for instance within development, if you don't have a development planning process, if you don't have a
and when you mean development, you mean developing your people.
right,
and,
exactly, right. If you don't have those things, you need to be building those, because you're going to get to a point where you're going to be developing.
Right.
And
if you don't have anything to develop into.
Right. And if you're not able to measure progress and understand what specific skills and behaviors need to be built for that individual, then why go through the exercise, which it would be.
Yeah,
it would be an exercise.
And so, and when we work with you, you've got some assessment tools and things, and that's a
Yes.
good starting point to kind of understand
Yes,
people
exactly.
deeply, and-
Assessments, and, performance feedback. What I talk about in the book is a talent conversation that you, as a group, get together and lay out all the people in your organization.
Yeah.
Now,
So you're going to war. And you got to figure out what you got, right?
Like that's exactly right.
Or you get you're about to go on a road trip. Do I have enough gas? Do I
Right.
have the thing? So
Right.
So our first step, we're going to go to commercial break and then come back and talk
Yes.
about the others. But the first step is just assessing what you got.
Right.
'Cause
Exactly.
if you've not
Benchmark.
got it,
you got to benchmark.
Right. If you've not got it, then you don't have anything to build on.
Right.
You got to start there. Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
exactly.
And even just bringing key people in a room and saying, by the way, I'm not going to be here the rest of my life, right? Like I am
Exactly.
interested in doing something else, and
Right.
so we have to figure out how this company runs in a
Yes.
way that's
Yeah,
effective.
because I want to leave a legacy, and I want
Yeah.
this company to continue
Yeah.
in some form or fashion.
Yeah, and as we go to a commercial break, like one thing a Vistage Chair shared with me at one point, it may have been you. I've talked to a lot of Vistage Chairs, but there is an exit strategy for a company. There always is.
Yes.
You're going to sell the business. You're going to leave the business. You're going to close the business.
Right.
It's not like some other relationships
Right.
we establish in the world where you're
Right.
like, oh, it's going to be until you die.
Right.
Should not be a thing. Like
No.
you should be thinking about the exit strategy of your
Exactly.
company at all times. There
And
will
you don't
an
want to be
exit.
closing it down.
No.
That's not.
Not a best way to do it.
No.
Right? Yeah, so sell it, whatever.
Right.
I mean, I could see, depending upon industry, but you should be building it for that's your most, if you've done it right, it's your most expensive asset, or
That's
your best asset.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
That's where, most small business owners, the majority of their equity is in their business.
asset. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've talked a little bit about the first year, which is kind of assessing,
Yes.
and there's at least 4 more. Could be more than that. So I'm talking with Beth Miller. I call her the godmother of Liger Partners. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist with Liger Partners. We're discussing her book, Replaceable, An Obsession with Succession. And we will be back in just a minute.
Thanks so much for watching the Claw podcast. We'll be back after this short break.
When I first met the Unicorn Marketing Agency, everything was rainbows and, well, unicorns. They promised overnight marketing results for my business, leads my sales team couldn't keep up with. Once I signed up with them, they didn't even hold up any of their promises, even after months. And the only thing they gave me were excuses. After a while, communication with them became spotty and they were hard to get a hold of. Eventually, they stopped responding altogether. Overall, I lost a total of about $23,000 over a 4-month period, and I lost a lot of valuable time and energy.
And we're back. You're listening to The Claw, which is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I'm speaking today with Beth Miller. She has a new book, Replaceable, An Obsession with Succession. She is talking today with us about the concept of, at some point, there's going to be an exit.
Yes, exactly.
So,
right.
from your business, the department you're running, whatever that looks like. We talked in the first segment about some of the things that how important it is to kind of put this plan in place. That it's not something that you say, hey, this time next year, I'd like to be out of my company.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you got at least this 5-year, like that's even the earliest.
Yeah. I mean, succession planning really, you should start doing succession planning
Day one. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Day one.
Yeah.
Day one.
Yep.
Because you got to know what that looks like.
Yes.
And you never know what's going to happen. Like
Right.
life is
Yeah. Exactly.
is a bad word sometimes.
Yeah, and also it's succession planning is not just about business owners.
Yeah.
If you are a department manager or vice president and you haven't identified your successor and developing him or her, then you don't have the opportunity to be promoted.
Right.
Because your manager is going to go, well, gosh,
Who's going to do that work?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're great at that.
Yeah. This book is valuable not just for business owners.
Okay. So once I've decided I'm going to go to war,
Yes.
I really do want a succession
It's
plan.
not
in
a war,
place.
by the way.
Oh, come on. It's more exciting that way. It's like, I've looked at all the things I have available, whatever. So I've got a couple tracks there of, kind of what do I think of next? And then let's say I go back and I look at my rations
Right.
and I don't have enough water to get from place to place. So there isn't that person or that designee that I'm like, oh, this is the person that could take this seat.
So it's really important to first understand what are those core competencies that individual needs. And those competencies should tie back to the values of your company.
Okay.
All right.
So drive to your core values.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you don't have core values.
Right. You need to start with core values.
That could be a starting point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So you develop questions, behavioral interviewing questions around those values. You also do some assessments to make sure that you aren't biased in what you're hearing from that individual. You can understand the skills of a person. It's really, is that person going to fit into your organization and be able to replace you at some point in time? So, do they have the capacity to learn quickly, for instance? And also, do they fit into your culture? I use the analogy of the palm tree. So palm tree loves Florida sun and warmth. But if you dug that palm tree up and transplanted it to Alaska, it would wither and die. Same thing for company cultures. People thrive in cultures that feed them.
Yeah.
Right?
They fit there.
Right.
Yeah. Anytime I've done
Exactly.
like research work on a company and someone's like, well, I just didn't really feel like I fit. It's like, well, you didn't fit in the culture.
Right.
Your culture is so
Exactly.
and each one has their own, and
Yes.
none are bad or worse or whatever.
Exactly.
It's really just where you fit. Right.
Right. Exactly.
So here's so as a person who needs to look for a successor, right? are you looking for, it feels like you're not looking for a carbon copy of yourself.
No.
But that's the temptation.
Oh, totally.
The temptation is carbon copy.
Right.
But if you found the carbon copy of that person, they're probably already running their own business.
Yeah, they're probably doing that.
Right.
And also, you're not gaining anything.
Okay.
Just to get at the twin
Right.
is not gaining, because you want your company to move forward.
So you want the person who can take it to the next level.
Right.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want that.
Yeah. So you're like, I think I can get it to this point, and I need to
Right.
find the person who can take it to the next
Right.
point.
Exactly.
That's scary.
Why is it scary?
I don't know. It just feels like it's like, well, understanding where your upper limit is.
Yes.
Like, where do you live?
Right.
What's
Right.
your part of the
Yeah.
business? Like, I purposely don't do, okay, maybe I have, but I try to get away from cold starts. Like, I did cold starts really early in my career,
Yeah.
meaning like a guy in the garage
Right,
and
yeah.
another person. And I'm
Right.
like, yeah, that sounds fun and exciting, but the first year is just terrible.
Yeah,
Right. So, like,
right.
how can we get into something that's established and,
Right.
that type of thing? And then determining where that upper limit is to find the next person who would take it to
Right.
the next level.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that almost feels like we can do on-air counseling. It'll be great. Almost feels like you'd have to, sell it to, you'd have to sell it. You have to give it to someone who's like a company that, like a,
Yeah, or it would. Yes, you would. It would be some sort of earn out kind of thing.
Well,
through over
meaning
time.
like finding an agent's, I can't think of the word. Like, there's these companies that go up and roll up companies.
Private equity.
Yeah, some kind of private equity or something.
You
or
could.
finding an
You could
individual.
do that. I mean, I've worked with one company. Actually, you work with them as well.
Yeah.
And he sold the company. He went on and to work with the company, and now he's got a bigger position within the company.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because this is an interesting. The temptation is to find, like, I'm always looking for myself.
Yeah.
Like, every day, I'm like, am I going to run into like me who wants to do this? But then, of course,
no, you really aren't. You're not enhancing the team.
Right. But it's the reversal of the seat. So, like, if I'm going to step out of it,
Yes.
it's like, who's the person you put in it? But I think it's good feedback. It's like, we'll find the person who could then take it to the
Right.
next level.
That's why it's really important to redefine what the CEO is going to look like.
Yeah.
It's not taking your job description.
Right.
It's taking a blank slate,
Yeah.
saying, okay, what if I step out in 2 years and I want the company to look like this?
Who's going to do that?
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
then I did a really good job on that. There's a company that that I've done operational work for
Yes,
a while.
yes, right.
And I'm stepping out.
I know, I heard that.
And the people that we've brought in
Yeah.
are amazing. I was on
Yeah.
a call the other day, and I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yes. I'm sure you're very relieved.
And they were both like talking. I'm like, that's exactly what you should do.
Right.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
So I feel
yeah.
very good about
Yeah.
where they're going with that. I think
Exactly,
it's a really
yeah.
good.
And
It was
the-
difficult for them because I was like, I don't want to do this. This is
Right,
not
yeah.
a fit.
Yeah,
More
and the
people.
owners do understand that they're not the right people for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Right.
But there's more of a. There are owners who want to hand off things because it's almost like, will you just take this from me, right?
Right,
Versus owners who are trying to do. It sounds bad the way I'm going to say this, but like who are just looking for the very best for the company.
Right.
You said there's the difference in like,
Yes.
I don't want to be in the seat. I'm not built for the seat.
Right.
Take it.
Right.
Versus I really do like the seat. I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But now I got to find the person to take it forward. So it's
Right.
kind of how you look at it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's good. Okay. Sorry. So we figure out our base, and then where do we go from there? So we've identified, and we need to identify someone who's. I'm going to say the word better, and that's probably the wrong word.
Different.
Okay.
Different, and is in a different place.
That is so super scary to me, though. It really is. Like,
Sorry
as
to
you
scare
say
you.
that.
And it's Halloween week, and I'm scaring you.
I know. Well, the thing about it, though, is like, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not looking for your carbon copy. You're looking for the person who's like, if you can get it to 20 million, you
Right.
want the person who can take it from 20
50.
to 50.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you got to entice that person that
Right. Yeah. And
to come
that's the
into
whole,
your,
right. Exactly.
tiny little nothing in their mind and
Right.
get it to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And that's obviously
And I think
a
it's
different.
it's hard to accept as a business builder, and there are people who are, we all know that are good at certain points and
Yes.
stages, that you're not the person for the next stage. Right?
Yeah.
That whole
Those-
thing. But I should get promoted, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But for you, promotion is leaving.
Promotion is doing other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I have lots of interests. I
Right.
have things I want to like. I might be I would love to be a Vistage chair. I think that would be fun.
There you go.
Yeah, so
you've got options.
Because I'm actually basically a therapist. And you and I both know that's
Yes.
all Vistage chair is. And how does that make you feel? And what do you think you should do
Right,
next?
exactly. Exactly.
And what are you going to do with that advice?
Yeah.
And then you come back and you're like, what did you do with
Yes,
that advice?
yeah. How's that working for you?
How's that working for you? All right. So what's next along what's important, or where are some things
Yeah.
you see people like make tragic mistakes?
So one is that key position versus key people. That
Okay.
you really you've got to take a look at your organization from a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah. Role, not person.
Right. Exactly. Which EOS does as well.
Yes.
And
It's really tough though.
Yeah,
It's like
it is.
everyone got fired,
right.
and now how do we build the company
Exactly.
from the ground up?
Yeah. Then it's defining your core competencies, both from an employee kind of individual contributor standpoint.
Right.
So those are competencies that align with your values that everybody should have in order to be part of the team.
Got it.
All right. Then there's the next level of competencies, which are those leadership competencies that make leadership within Liger, for instance, different than leadership in another company.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So there's kind of two levels to it. That's a very different model than most competency models that larger companies use,
Okay.
which are huge.
Right.
And every position has its own set of competencies.
Yeah. Right. And then you're leveled within those.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. That's just
I
overkill.
almost went to work for a big company like that. Like there was a hot minute.
Yeah, right.
And I was
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just overkill for smaller companies.
Well, and that is what I see people get caught up in when you think about E-Myth or Succession, is they think, I need to build a book. And
Right.
the book has everything in it as to how the business runs.
Right.
And while you do need to have good process in place and have people who kind of, that's just like, you're not building it's not a Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Like we're
Exactly.
Not,
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And the other one is understanding what potential looks like in your organization, and that's really hard because people understand performance because it's historic.
Right.
You've got data. Now you're trying to forecast what potential does this person have,
Right.
and then from that you can then start kind of matrixing people in what's called a 9-box grid, where it's performance versus potential, and the upper right-hand corner is that high potential, high performance individual. Those that are in the kind of the middle to upper, those are the people you want to focus on from a development standpoint.
Okay.
And then you've got the low performer, low potential. Well, what the heck
Right.
is that person doing? Right.
Right.
Why are they there?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's interesting because being, again, culturally, or even as kind of running something, you're results driven.
Yes.
But a results driven person may not be the right person for that.
Exactly.
Piece.
Right.
Very
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So
So the
there's
book
a lot
has
of, like,
book has a
therapy.
lot. Yeah, the book has a lot of tools in it
Yeah.
to help you through the process.
Right.
Because there are 6 phases to it.
Right.
The final phase being recognition and success, right?
Right.
And you really, something that a lot of companies fail to do. Now Liger's great at that.
Yeah.
You guys have some great events and celebrate, et cetera.
We like to have a party.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but a lot of companies don't.
Right.
It's not part of their culture.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But you still need to have some of that where you recognize when people have successfully developed.
Right.
They might not have been promoted
Right.
yet, right?
Right.
But you need to
You represent the core
Right.
values.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You're a Liger.
right.
Is
And
the-
and then the team the succession planning team, they need to be happy and celebrate when people go through that process, right?
Absolutely.
And are successful. The other thing that I think companies fail to do is to communicate succession plan.
That there is one, that's the plan.
Yes. Similar to this individual I was talking about in the Midwest, where apparently he's been talking exit planning for years now, and it's always in 3 years, right? For
It's
the
always
last
in 3
15,
years.
right?
Yeah,
for the
like
last
keeps,
15
the goal
years,
keeps moving. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. And so nobody in the organization, especially as key employees, are clear on what the future is.
And putting those mileposts, they are goalposts
Right.
in place so that that you've hit them.
Right.
And then, okay, we hit a goalpost.
Right.
That means this.
And when employees know that there's a plan like that, they're more engaged.
Right.
And you're going to retain.
Because people like to go to war. There's a mountain to climb.
Yes, there's a mountain to climb. Okay. That's not a war. So yeah, there's actually a lot of research that shows like millennials, if they know there's a succession plan, they're going to stay there longer.
Right.
Especially if they know they're part of that plan.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do they fit?
Yeah.
And succession plans require development.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that millennials like is development.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
They want to learn and grow.
Learn and grow.
Yeah.
Next adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next mountain to climb.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So communicating the plan is really important and something that a lot of small companies do not do.
Well, small companies.
And when they do it, they don't do it well.
Yeah. Small companies struggle dramatically with just sharing any of that.
Yes.
Because they're afraid that, I'm going to scare people to death.
Right.
If I tell them that we're not making money, they're going to be like, oh my gosh. I'm
Right.
like, but we're fine. Like, we know where we're headed.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we have tried, and this is a learned lesson. This is not something I did inherently.
Right.
Like, it was another business I had, and we noticed when we started sharing numbers that people got it.
Yeah.
Way more.
Right.
Like, they had these gross assumptions about how much we were making.
Oh gosh, yes.
They're like, oh, you're making. I'm like, no, I don't know where you think that. I don't know how you understand that to be the case.
We had that issue years ago. My ex-husband and I, when we were running our consulting company.
Yeah.
And these people were educated. I mean, we weren't.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, that account's worth like $1 million. I'm like, no, that account's like worth like 50,000,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah.
So
yeah, profit is different.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, so the sharing of the numbers, at least on a larger level,
Right.
Giving people a goal to go after, it just puts everybody,
Right.
I mean, that's why we love like football games and baseball games and things.
We know where we stand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great talking with you, everybody. So you got the book, and I can go to Kindle.
Kindle, yeah. There's both a Kindle version and a hard copy.
Hard copy, so you can get it signed and
Yeah.
reach out to Beth.
Yeah.
And I just can't say enough about the tools that you use to help people move things along. Because the other thing that we do well is in our careers is we lie. So we show up for that interview. It looks like it's the best person ever.
Yes.
And unless you get kind of behind the scenes and start to look at how that person interacts, you can learn a lot and kind of prevent the bad hire.
Yes. Please use an assessment of some sort,
Prevent
as long as it's
the bad
validated for
hire.
hiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And understanding where that person fits. And then specifically if you're looking for succession, like,
Right.
am I bringing in someone who's going to fit in that category? Like, what does that look like? Because that investment, I mean, if you're talking 5 years, you've got to have somebody who's also even committed to spending the time to do the
Right.
work.
And when you make that mistake,
Yeah.
it's so costly.
Yes.
Because you not only lose money, but time.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And the way if you're a planner, you plan around what things are going to look like. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have been listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holscott, Chief Strategist at Liger Partners. I've been talking today with Beth Miller. Her company is Executive Velocity, which I have not even mentioned once, but it'll be in the notes, and you can find her. We call her the godmother of Liger Partners. She helps us both with our sort of internal professional development and succession planning, and I just can't say enough good things about her. Appreciate her spending time today with us. If you're running a company or a department, you need to make sure you're replaceable.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Claw Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, rate and review this podcast. And if you or someone you know wants to make an appearance on this show, email us at yourbestie@ligerpartners.com.